Have you ever had that strange, unshakable feeling that something was off, yet you couldn't quite explain why? As if your choices weren't entirely your own. As if an invisible force were subtly guiding your steps. Maybe you've done favors you didn't want to do, backed down in arguments where you were right, or trusted people who later revealed a different face. If any of this sounds familiar, and I know it does, then this video is meant for you. Because here's the brutal truth. You are being manipulated every single day by those close to you, by the media, by leaders, by anyone who understands how to operate the hidden mechanisms of the human mind. And the worst part, you don't even realize it. There's no need for hypnosis or some cinematic mind control. The most powerful form of manipulation is the one that convinces you you're in control, that the decision was yours, that the mistake was yours. Most people live like this, silently being moved like pawns on a chessboard they didn't even know they were on. And when they try to resist, they feel guilt, fear, doubt. They've been emotionally trained not to fight back. And if you're thinking, well, that doesn't happen to me, stop right now, because that's exactly what a skilled manipulator wants you to believe. In this video, I won't offer comfort. I will give you tools, because those who master the art of manipulation, as Machiavelli understood, don't need to shout or force. They watch. They study your patterns, your insecurities, your blind spots, and then they act. They know what drives you. And if you don't know, you will be driven. You're about to learn how people manipulate without you ever realizing it. You'll start to recognize the patterns, the emotional tricks, the subtle games of control. You'll identify your own vulnerabilities, and more importantly, you'll learn how to protect your mind. Because true freedom isn't about doing what you want. It's about understanding why you want it. This video is a call, a summons, for those who are tired of being used, for those who have suffered in silence, been blamed, silenced, conditioned. Here, you will learn how to stop being the puppet and become the strategist. But I warn you, once you see, you won't be able to unsee. So get ready, because what you're about to uncover may forever change how you view others and yourself. Have you ever noticed how some people always seem to get what they want, even when they don't deserve it? They don't raise their voice. They don't beg. They don't threaten. They persuade. They engage. They make you believe that giving in was your idea. This isn't charisma. It's technique. It's manipulation in its purest, most effective form. A manipulator doesn't act on impulse. They observe. They study you, your reactions, your emotional needs, your fears. They notice when you crave approval, when you're afraid of rejection, when you feel guilty for saying no. And they use that. Manipulation starts long before a single word is spoken. It begins in the quiet reading of your body language, the tone of your voice, the silence between your sentences. Some use charm. They smile, compliment you, present themselves as different. They make you feel seen, heard, special. But beneath that warmth is calculation. They are building emotional debt, because when someone is too good to you, your instincts push you to give back. And that's when you start giving in. Others prefer guilt. They play the victim. They say they're overwhelmed, misunderstood, that they only have you. Slowly they shift the emotional weight onto your shoulders. And if you dare to say no or pull away, they don't argue. A sigh, a passive-aggressive comment, a look of disappointment. That's all it takes. The subtle manipulator never has to ask directly. You'll offer willingly. And then there are those who use fear. They paint catastrophic what-ifs. If you do this, you'll end up alone. If you leave me, no one else will ever want you. They don't bind you with chains. They trap you with ideas. They make you question your strength, your instincts, your ability to move. So you stay, stuck by choice. But these tactics are nothing new. Niccolò Machiavelli, in The Prince, described, with surgical precision, how manipulation can be used as a legitimate tool of power. He understood before anyone that humans are driven by emotions and self-interest, and that whoever grasps this truth controls reality. As he said, men judge more by their eyes than by their hands, for all can see, but few can touch. Manipulation is just that, a visual and emotional performance designed to look like reality. The manipulator creates the theater, and you, without even knowing it, become part of the cast. They assign the roles, write the script, and make you act. The scariest part, you believe the plot is yours. But the only reason this theater works is because something inside you allows it. A gap, a wound, an unmet desire you haven't yet faced. That's what makes you vulnerable. And as long as you don't recognize what weakens you, you will keep calling it love, friendship, or loyalty. Let's expose this now. If this content speaks to something deep within you, subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to learn won't just change how you see others. It will change how you see yourself. You're not manipulated because you're weak. You're manipulated because you're human. Because within every human being lies an emotional blind spot, an unresolved desire, a wound that hasn't healed, a silent need that creates a gap. And that is where the manipulator enters. They don't force, they listen. They perceive what even you haven't yet seen in yourself. Some of us carry a deep thirst for approval. From an early age, we were taught that to be loved, we had to earn it. That affection is a reward, not a right. So we began to shape ourselves to be accepted, to be valued, to be seen. That need, that aching hole in the chest, is an open invitation to the manipulator. They offer crumbs of validation, and in return, you give blind loyalty. They say what you long to hear, and in exchange, you surrender your autonomy. Others carry guilt like an invisible burden. They feel wrong for saying no, for putting themselves first, for setting boundaries. They were taught that self-care is selfish and that sacrifice is virtue. So even when something feels off, they hesitate to speak, afraid they'll come across as cold, ungrateful, or cruel. The manipulator senses this guilt like a bloodhound. They pose as someone who only wants what's best for you. And through that illusion, they begin to guide your decisions with distorted morality. Then there are those who carry fear. The fear of rejection, of loneliness, of being forgotten. They cling to toxic connections because the alternative, facing the void, feels unbearable. The manipulator offers the illusion of safety, then threatens to take it away. They make you feel that without them, you are nothing, and you believe it because your fear whispered it to you long before they ever did. All of these vulnerabilities have a root. They don't appear out of nowhere. They stem from past experiences, silent traumas, emotional conditioning inherited without question. And until you face those wounds, they remain open. And those who approach with a smile and hidden intentions will always know exactly where to press. Machiavelli understood this. He saw that true control doesn't require force, only knowledge of human weakness. "The nature of peoples is variable," he wrote. "It's easy to convince them of something, but difficult to keep them convinced. So the manipulator doesn't try to convince. They fill in your empty spaces. They settle into the parts of you you haven't yet understood. But there is a way out. You don't have to remain emotionally predictable. You can learn to identify your own blind spots and seal them shut. Only then will you stop being a target and start living with clarity." That's exactly what we'll uncover next: how to build emotional armor, how to create real immunity against manipulation. Are you ready to stop being a hostage? Because this next step takes courage. Everyone wants to stop being manipulated, but few are willing to pay the price for emotional freedom. That price is brutal awareness. Because yes, the truth sets you free. But first, it hurts. And the first truth you must face is the illusion that being kind, empathetic, and understanding will protect you. It won't. In fact, when these virtues aren't balanced with clarity, they become the very traits that make you most vulnerable. Developing emotional immunity isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. It's about breaking the automatic responses that manipulators rely on. And that begins with one simple step. Recognize your patterns. Pause and observe. What emotional triggers make you give in? Is it the fear of disappointing someone? The anxiety of rejection? The compulsion to keep the peace, no matter the cost? When you understand what drives you, you change the game. The second step is what Machiavelli would call strategic detachment. Learn to emotionally distance yourself without losing empathy. This means observing situations without rushing to fix, please, or engage. It means not treating compliments as truths, but as data points. It means recognizing when someone is steering your emotions and pausing to think before you react. Because manipulators rely on emotional urgency. They need you to feel, not to think. So, think. The third step is to become unpredictable. Manipulators thrive on predictability. They know your moves. If they cry, you'll comfort them. If they flatter you, you'll drop your guard. If they push, you'll cave. Your power lies in breaking that rhythm. Say no when they expect yes. Go silent when they expect conflict. Disappear when they expect you to chase. This disarms the game and forces them to reveal their true motives. Another crucial step: build a solid identity. The more you know who you are, the less you need to prove it. And the less you seek validation, the less power anyone holds over you. Manipulators don't control reality. They control perception, especially your perception of yourself. They make you doubt, question, reevaluate, always in alignment with their agenda. But when your inner sense of self is solid, their influence breaks apart. And understand this: emotional immunity doesn't come from a video. It comes from daily practice, from self-awareness, from resisting the urge to please, from standing by your decisions, even when it's uncomfortable, even when there's discomfort in the air. Hold the line. Emotional immunity means remembering this: you owe nothing to anyone but your own mental integrity. Staying sane in a world of constant emotional games isn't just survival, it's resistance. Machiavelli wrote, "Men must be either pampered or destroyed, for if merely offended, they will take revenge." Harsh, yes, but it exposes an uncomfortable truth. In the game of power, there is no neutrality. Either you dominate the emotional field, or you will be dominated by it. But what if the manipulator isn't a stranger? What if they're in your home, your office, your bed. What happens when you can't just walk away? In the next part, we're stepping into the most delicate battlefield, manipulation within close relationships, and how to reclaim your freedom even when the one who's controlling you is someone you love. This will be the ultimate test of strength, and if what you're hearing resonates, you'll find real value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Carl Jung's core insights and gives you tools to understand yourself at a deeper, more transformative level. Link is in the pinned comment. It's easy to talk about manipulation when it comes from a stranger. What's hard is facing it when the manipulator is someone you trust. A parent, a partner, a boss who gave you a chance, a childhood friend. In these cases, manipulation becomes subtle, insidious, dangerous, because it comes dressed as affection, as care, as loyalty, and out of fear of conflict, fear of loss, fear of being alone, you stay. You stay in an emotional web that drains your clarity, your identity, yourself. The intimate manipulator doesn't need to lie. They distort. They don't yell. They suggest. They don't forbid you from choosing. They just make you feel guilty for choosing differently. Over time, you stop questioning. You start walking on eggshells. You avoid conflict, anticipate reactions, and call it keeping the peace. But peace that costs your truth is just silent war. In romantic relationships, it sounds like, I only act this way because I love you. Without you, I'm nothing. But love that demands submission is not love. It's emotional blackmail. In families, it sounds like, you can't do this to your mother. You owe us respect. But respect built on guilt is not respect. It's control. In the workplace, it sounds like, you should be grateful. Who else would give you a chance like this? But gratitude that becomes debt is pure manipulation. Here's the core truth. Proximity does not justify emotional violation. Love does not grant the right to shape someone with guilt or fear. To break this cycle, you have to face something hard. Not every relationship with affection is healthy. Not every person who loves you knows how to love you. And not every bond that holds you is keeping you safe. Some are just keeping you small. So how do you act? Start by setting boundaries, clear, firm. No justification needed. A calm no is more powerful than 1,000 explanations. Then comes exposure. Say what you see, say what you feel, say what you will no longer accept, not to change them, but to anchor yourself in your truth. And finally, stand firm when the backlash hits, because it will. There will be guilt trips, insults, victimhood, punitive silence. The manipulator feeds on your hesitation. They push to see if you'll retreat. So don't. And understand this. Sometimes, loving someone means stepping away. It means leaving the dance of dysfunction and letting them confront the emptiness they've been avoiding. Because as long as you're the one trying to save, fix, explain, they won't change. And you'll slowly lose yourself. It's a hard choice, but a necessary one. Because only those who walk away from toxic ties can develop a new kind of vision. A vision that sees beyond words, beyond masks, beyond superficial intentions. And with that clarity, we enter the next stage, how to apply Machiavelli's strategic mind in modern life. How to protect your psyche in a world where everything and everyone is trying to influence you. The time has come to turn the tables. Machiavelli never wrote to be liked. He didn't chase virtue or ethics or approval. He was loyal to reality, raw, unfiltered, uncomfortable reality. And if you want to survive psychologically in today's world, you must learn to think as he did. with brutal clarity, cold strategy, and emotional detachment. Because make no mistake, we are living in an era of constant manipulation. Social media, marketing, politics, religion, relationships. Everything is built on influence, image, narrative. Those who don't understand this are swallowed by it. Machiavelli saw human beings as predictable, driven by interests and emotions. He believed that those who understand these drives hold power. He wrote, "Men judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Everyone can see, but few can touch." In other words, perception is more powerful than truth. And that's how the game works today. Whoever controls the narrative controls the decisions. Whoever controls the image controls the influence. Whoever understands the mechanisms controls behavior, without ever needing to raise their voice. So what does this mean in practice? It means you must stop living on emotional autopilot. Machiavelli didn't believe in universal morality. He believed in context. What works for one may destroy another. What sounds noble in theory can be strategic suicide in reality. Kindness without discernment is foolishness. Honesty without timing is self-sabotage. Limitless altruism is servitude. If you want to be free, you need to learn the game and play it well. Start with observation. Read people not by what they say, but by what they do, especially when no one is watching. Evaluate actions, not promises. Analyze patterns, not excuses. Trust less in words and more in the hidden interests behind them. And above all, don't react. Anticipate. The manipulator acts strategically. Your defense is to be one step ahead. Next, apply silence as a weapon. One of the biggest mistakes people make is excessive emotional exposure. They show too much, talk too much, explain too much. But silence confuses. It commands respect. It breaks the manipulator's rhythm. When you stop reacting as expected, the game loses its script, and in that void, you take back control. Another critical skill, mastering ambiguity. Machiavelli taught that power lies in appearing virtuous without necessarily being so. Today, that means adapting your language, your posture, your presence, without compromising your core. You don't need to reveal everything. You only need to show enough to shape perception. The rest, you keep to yourself, because real power is what stays hidden. Most importantly, take full responsibility for your emotional state. The manipulator feeds on your instability. They need you to doubt, to fear, to hesitate. But when you know yourself, regulate yourself, stand firm, even under pressure, you become impenetrable. Machiavelli wrote, "The prudent man follows the paths beaten by the great and imitates those who have been excellent, so that even if he does not reach their level, he may come close." Use the wisdom of those who mastered the game to stop being a pawn in it. Now that you understand the mechanics of manipulation and how to shield your mind strategically, one question remains. What will you do with this knowledge? How do you turn insight into strength? How do you build a new way of living, immune to emotional control? This is what we'll explore in the final part. How to take control of your own mind so that no one can ever manipulate you again. We've reached the most important truth, and maybe the hardest to accept. As long as you don't control your own mind, someone else will. And it doesn't have to be a villain. Sometimes it's a smile. Sometimes it's a phrase you heard as a child and never questioned. Sometimes it's society itself, teaching you to obey, to yield, to stay silent. The deepest manipulation doesn't come from others. It comes from the thoughts you never questioned, the emotions you took as facts, the choices you thought were yours, but were really shaped by fear, guilt, or the need to belong. Freedom begins when you stop calling conditioning free will. But freedom has a price. It demands that you break the illusion that everyone means well, dismantle the image you've built of yourself as someone who must always be nice, understanding, available. It asks you to sit with the discomfort of saying no, to endure the silence after you speak your truth, to walk away from dynamics that hurt, even if they felt like home. You'll stop being manipulated the day you stop needing to be accepted, when the fear of displeasing no longer rules your behavior, when your clarity outweighs your neediness, when you can look into the eyes of those who tried to control you and calmly say, "No more." Now it's in your hands. You can go back to your life. Forget this. Keep playing the game without knowing you're being played. Or you can start today. Train your mind. Observe. Analyze. Resist. Rebuild. Become the kind of person who doesn't bend to guilt, who sees through the masks, who walks straight even when everyone else walks in circles. Comment below. What moment in your life made you see? What was the click that revealed the manipulation? Or are you still caught in someone's emotional game? Speak up. Verbalizing is the first step to breaking the cycle. And if this video opened your eyes, don't stop here. Watch the next one. It's just as important, maybe even more, because knowledge is a ladder. Each step takes you one level higher, one step further from the darkness. So keep climbing, because the truth doesn't just set you free, it transforms. See you there.